Hey, looks like we're back at it again. Another edition of the NFL Draft Bible live stream. RIC in a place to be. Rick Serritella telling it like it is when it comes to the NFL Draft since 2002. And we are 34 hours away from the NFL Draft, something like that. Unbelievable. This is day 3 of our live draft preview coverage. The next 3 days, we will be live reaction on air during the NFL draft. So if you want to get caught up on all of our previews, go check out the archives here on YouTube on the All Access Football Network channel. Otherwise, 10 p.m. Thursday and Friday night, we're going to hop on towards the tail end of the draft, react to some live picks, recap everything that's going on, and then day 3 will be on air again to recap 5 p.m., recap the end of day 3. We will stay on air for the undrafted free agent process and react to that and analyze that. So if you're into that, that'll be an interesting, fast and furious type of process. And then Sunday, we'll have our recap show at 10 a.m. Eastern. We got all kinds of fun guests. Our guy Russell Landy will be joining us. David Johnson will be joining us. We'll have players hopping on after they get selected, joining us. And today, man, we've got such a list of guests and players coming up in the second part of the show. Mook Williams from NFL Draft Bible Consulting will be on the air. We have Stanley Thomas Oliver from FIU, Cedric Byrd from Hawaii, Azur Kamara from Kansas, Malcolm Roach from Texas, Cole Christiansen, salutes, from Army, Trey Dishon from Kansas State, Ray Wilborn from Ball State. And it's a can't stop, won't stop affair. So buckle up, everybody. I'm going to go around the horn here and introduce our co-hosts. First up, we got the VP of Player Personnel for the Toronto Argonauts, of course, an NFL Draft Bible Familia Original. He is John Murphy. How we doing today, John?
Doing excellent. I think 34 hours away from finding out that old game show question. If the price is right, will we have trades? In all likelihood, we will have somebody make a trade.
And we're going to talk about that. We're going to get some predictions on the record here leading up to the draft. Joe Everett is our director of college scouting. He never leaves a stone unturned. He's been doing this damn thing for 10, 15 years, and he joins us there in Indianapolis. Of course, John out there in Toronto. What's going on, Joe?
Doing great. I woke up super early, get everything all set up, and 2 minutes before showtime, the internet goes out. But we're all here. We're all ready to go. Green light has been lit.
You must be up early. You got the Draft Bible logo in the background today, stepping up the game. I love it, brother. Good stuff. Joe Everett in the building. Let's go over to Ryan Roberts, our scouting coordinator, of course, my fellow Jersey brethren. And if you haven't picked up the NFL Draft Bible 2020 that you see in Joe's backdrop there, you can still do that. NFLDraftBible.com, the PDF. We got a promo code, VIP50, VIP50, get 50% off. Ryan, how goes it today? And, tell the little people at home, we haven't talked too much about assembling that Draft Bible book this year. Tell us, the listening audience at home, what it all entailed, and give us a war story, brother.
Yeah, man, it's all good over here. The Draft Bible, we ended with 622 scouting reports, 182 interviews, I think was the final count. It's hats off to everybody a part of NFL Draft Bible, Rick, Joe, everybody that contributed to it. I mean, it's an absolutely incredible product. I've gotten nothing but praise for it, from people that have been able to talk to, and they appreciate the lack of pictures and fluff. They just want the meat and potatoes of the draft world. So awesome stuff. And, in this ever-evolving world of NFL draft, apparently Justin Herbert and Tua is now a pick'em for the second quarterback off the board. So it's just kind of reiterating, nobody knows what's going to happen, man, which is the best part of this time.
Well, you know what? That's a perfect segue into our first segment because, the people here, they're doing their prop bets. I had people say, hey, can you send me your mock draft? Can you send me your top 100? I want a little action here. People are bored. They're at home. The pandemic. They want to get some prop bets in. So let's try to help those folks out. There's mock draft simulators and stuff that people are trying to fill out. So I think we can all safely assume, not pencil, let's put it in marker, Joe Burrow 1, Chase Young 2. Can we all agree there? Yes?
My mock.
Okay. So, John, Detroit at number 3, you said, let's make a deal. Will it be Okudah? Will it be somebody else? Will it be a trade down? What does Detroit do? I think Okudah right now is heavily favored to be that number 3 pick off the board.
Yeah, I think they are. Let me see. As of right now, yeah, I don't have Okudah. So that's what's happening here. Yeah, I think if they stick with it, I say Simmons. But I think it's very tradable in their mind because, you know, whether they have Okudah as their guy and now they also are feeling the vibe that there's, you know, maybe a chance that he's not going, you know, there, just like we just said, if you're sitting in the room and you're Bob Quinn and you've asked your people, okay, hey, you know, if we don't take him here at 3 and we made a trade down, is he going at 4? No. Is he going at 5? No. You know, so it's probably safe all the way to Jacksonville. And if you feel like Jacksonville might be a club that, you know, is looking in a different direction, you know, you now have a chance to say, hey, somehow our guy might be more available in that 8 to 10 range, and we're getting something, you know, of real value here. I think that's going to be something they really consider doing. And if not, I think there's a real chance that, you know, if Matt Patricia has his way and, you know, would share, you know, what they can do with him, that Simmons, you know, has an upside greater than what Jamie Collins did, and is a guy that they saw, you know, how well that, you know, he was able to be used. And in today's NFL game, you know, Simmons may not have that dominant pass rush trait that gets a lot of these guys taken normally in the top 5, but his ability, you know, to play all those variables and be out in space making plays the way he has, you know, could give Detroit, you know, a difference maker at a different level that they have not had. And, you know, we've seen what an impact linebacker has done for other teams. That could be a guy that starts pointing them in the right direction. So if they like, you know, a different guy, you know, that's the start of where the trading point is. But if not, I'm going to say Okudah is not a slam dunk there at 3.
Okay, well, if Simmons does go at 3, it'll be interesting to see how far Okudah actually does slide, because there's going to be a heavy market for tackles, quarterbacks. Joe, it takes 2 to tango. What is Detroit going to do here at number 3?
That's where they trade out. I've got the Detroit trading out, and I think my final mock, it'll be San Diego matched to Tua, so I believe San Diego makes that move up. I wouldn't mess around if I were them, just for the chance that not only Miami before their pick, but some other team would trade up, if not 3, 4. And then Kuda, how far he falls, well, that could be to 5 max. I don't see him falling too far. I mean, with that difference between him and CJ, I mean, CJ's a good player, but you know the top of the upper crust is Jeff Okudah. So I think he's still, I think 5 at the latest, but 3, I think that's the first trade in the draft.
Yeah, you know, you guys all have Tua to San Diego, so in order for him to get there, I think that would entail a trade up. You know, you mentioned CJ Henderson real quick. One of the interesting prop bets on FanDuel.com, I'll try to help you out here, plus 3,300, so $100 to win back 3,300. You can bet Tristan Wirfs is the first offensive tackle off the board, and CJ Henderson is the first cornerback off the board. So 100 to win back 3,300. Hey, it's possible. I'm looking at John Murphy's board back there. It's possible. Ryan, you are on board with Tua to the Chargers. In fact, all 3 of you guys. I'm out on an island saying my. Is it a San Diego trade up to 3 at Detroit? What happens here? How does it all unfold?
Yeah, I'm well on board with the guys. I think that if the Lions stay at 3, I could definitely be sold on Okudah or Simmons, one or the other. But I would lean more towards Okudah just because obviously everyone's, you know, overreacted with the Darius Slay thing. I'm kind of with John, though. Like, I feel like Simmons would be the interesting pick just because I would like to manufacture some chaos, you know what I mean, in the front 7. I feel like that would be a interesting way to go. So if Detroit stays, I think Okudah or Simmons is the safe bet. I do think that that's the trade back, though. I'm not sure if it's San Diego or Los Angeles, I guess now. I'm not sure if it's Los Angeles definite. I think that it's either going to be Miami or L.A. It just depends on if the Dolphins are getting a little, you know, in the back of their mind, like, ooh, is somebody going to jump me? I need to make sure that no one can jump me. But I do think that that is the perfect trade back. The question is now, is it going to be Miami or L.A. that jumps up to grab their quarterback of the future?
All right, John Murphy, Ryan Roberts, Joe Everett, Rick Serritella here. Opposite of what you're hearing in the media, a lot of people predicting Tua could slide. Our panelists predicting that teams will be in the hunt to move up to secure his services. All right, so let's go on to the fourth pick. Ryan, I'll stick with you there in Jersey. As you know, you can check 10 different mock drafts. You'll get 10 different answers with what the Giants are expected to do here. Dave Gettleman, not notoriously known for trading down, but one of those years where it could be possible.
Yeah, I think he's going to stay pat there. I think he's going to stick there and take whatever offensive tackle is his flavor. The question is, which one is it? That is a really fascinating one because I think everyone's kind of going towards Jedrick Wills. It seems like that is like kind of the consensus above the the big name medias, the Daniel Jeremiahs and Mel Kipers of the world. That's kind of where it's being pegged. But I'm still curious, man, if they take a stab at Mekhi Becton. That just seems like Gettleman's flavor. I'm not certain who they're taking. I think it's going to be an offensive tackle, and if there's a little bit of a dark horse, I guess I think Becton still has a pretty good chance at 4 for them.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fit with Becton, but I also think that the Giants, because they've had so much off-field chaos instead of on-field chaos, I think the whole failed drug test, Gettleman might get a little bit shaky there. Joe, I wouldn't rule out Tristan Wirfs, just a well-coached, impressive athlete, polished offensive tackle. I believe Wirfs would actually push Nate Soldier over to the right side. Your thoughts?
No doubt about it. I mean, it doesn't matter to me where he played at college. I don't care if a guy like that played guard at college. He looks like a tackle to me with those numbers, how well he tested. And I agree, it's got to be tackle. That's Gettleman's fit. That's his style. But you're right on Becton. Boy, if Gettleman's got a flavor of ice cream, it's Mekhi Becton. And I think the only thing that gets me rethinking that is, like you said, that unfortunate with the testing positive for whatever. But still, I think that's what my mock will read. Wirfs going there at the Giants pick.
John, I see Wirfs a little bit further down on your board behind you. Let me throw a monkey wrench into it because when Gettleman was with Carolina, I think 4 years in a row or 3 years in a row, he used the first round pick on a defensive lineman. Could he be tempted by Derek Brown at number 4?
Yeah, I was going to say, if Detroit just stood pat or made a trade, and I think the interesting trade would be if Detroit's comfortable and everyone else has made a big deal out of them needing a DB right away. There's a chance for Atlanta. If Atlanta now, after what they've seen the last couple of days, realizing they're playing 2 fantasy football offenses, twice a year now, there could be where Atlanta, if they're just saying, hey, we're going over Jacksonville, we're going over everybody to get the first DB that we want, whoever that is, there would be where they could make a trade. If Detroit can't get leverage with the quarterback trade, will they be willing to take a good trade, but not something that will just blow your mind, right? Because if it's for a quarterback, 2 first rounds and something else, is very possible for a quarterback. If Atlanta was trading up to Detroit from 16 to 3, it's got to be this year's 1, next year's 1, and probably something else. But the something else is not going to be 3 first-round picks, if you're coming for that. But it would have to be Detroit feeling like, man, to double down and get, a DB and another guy, or a DB and an offensive lineman, in the first round would outweigh just getting one guy. And could Detroit see getting like a Jeff Gladney or somebody like that being a better total package fit for them, to go 2 for 1 and just take a good trade rather than an exceptional one? There's kind of the pressure point of how much do you have to trade? And in Detroit's sense, how much do you have to get in order to make a move? I think Gettleman, in a perfect storm of having all this information the same as always, would not have made a trade, just kind of in the seat that he's sitting in. And although I'm sticking with, offensive line over the Derek Brown guy, over a chance that Joe Judge might really want Simmons potentially if he was sitting there as well, I'm going to go Andrew Thomas. I think it's a cleaner, it's what you kind of see a little bit with what Becton might give you if he hits his ceiling. And I think for sure, he is a for sure tackle, because the one thing you can't do is you can't bet on a guy and then have it be that he is the best guard in the draft and strikes out at tackle.
Yeah.
I think for sure that it's a Russell Okung, that if you took a guy like that, that's what you're getting, even if he doesn't play left side, and your investment in Soldier is what it was, and you have him at right tackle, that you don't have to move anybody around. You don't have to ask a rookie to play left tackle, in his first year. And my thing with Wills is I don't think he's a great athlete, and I think he would be only a right tackle. And that would concern me just a little bit with, what you're going to see with the Redskins. If the Redskins take Chase Young at 2 for a period of time, they have Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Jonathan, Al, and Deron Payne. Like, they have a front four that they've invested in. Now those guys have to play well together, but they literally have a front four that is all high round draft pick, big investment, in it to go after, Prescott and go after Wentz and go after, the Daniel Jones. And the one thing we saw is where Daniel Jones's turnovers were coming was pressure, right? When the pocket was not clean, that's where those fumbles come in. And hey, Dave Craig had a great career, right? Was a very solid starting quarterback and fumbled his ass off, right? Like, that guy had more fumble, had 18, 20 fumble, had tons of fumbles a year, in the pocket. So I think keeping him with a clean pocket, but also having this be as clean of a pick as possible, just to sort of get Gettleman kind of back on balance there. We know that the head coach is safe. We're not sure if the GM is safe at this, at this time frame. I would be surprised if he did anything too left of center.
Yeah. And I think my boy Matt Ioannidis from Temple is there in Washington, along with Ryan Kerrigan. So they're going to really have a solid front seven. Unbelievable. You mentioned Atlanta. They've been aggressive in the past to move up, and I think they're a team looking to kind of reload here. They started off 2-6, finished 6-2. I think they feel like that could be a quick fix. Hey, let's move up and get our guy type of thing. So I could definitely see that as a possibility. You guys all believe that Tua is going to go before Herbert, so I'm assuming that everybody feels that Herbert to the Dolphins at 5 is a consensus amongst you guys?
Nice and safe and bland, just like Miami likes it.
All right, well, hey, I think we got no arguments there. Let's go over to a chat room question. We're about 15 minutes out until we have Mook Williams, our first guest. Then it's going to be fast and furious. If you have a question on Twitter, at NFL Draft Bible, if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment in the chat room, and we'll get to as many as we can. Considering how good he was outside cornerback in college, can Amik Robertson, Louisiana Tech, play there in the NFL, or will he be stuck and labeled as a slot guy? The question or the logic is I just can't see him matching up against a guy like Mike Evans. Ryan, I know you've broken down Amik pretty in depth. Your thoughts?
He's a really interesting case study because when you watch him, I mean, size doesn't do too much issue to him, honestly. When you watched his game against Texas, against Colin Johnson, he was up in his grill, press coverage, gave him all the fits in the world. He is a feisty dude. But I think that the natural thing, though, is the dude's 5'8", so that's going to push him inside. And you could also use that physicality inside. You need to be a solid tackler, which he is. You need to be aggressive. You need to be able to run fill, coming off the slot. You need to do those types of things. Force player. I think that the natural fit is going to be inside. It's really interesting, though. I think it's his tape is a lot of fun just because you don't see size really bother him too much. But at the next level, playing a guy like a Mike Evans was kind of the comparison here. Obviously, a guy that is of Mike Evans' size and stature combined with 4.5 speed, like that's a completely different animal. And I worry about him obviously getting lost down the field a little bit, especially when he's back to the quarterback, that type of thing, back shoulders, the length is going to be a concern. So, yeah, I think he's going to get pushed inside, but I think that he's going to be a tremendous fit just because of what he was able to show physicality-wise on the outside while he was at Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, and, you think back to guys like Ladarius Webb before the injuries when he was with Baltimore, I believe. He was a kind of a nickel guy, but injuries, hey, look, I need you to play outside. Same thing you saw last year with Devontae Maddox over there with the Eagles. So I think he's a guy that, ideally he's an inside slot nickelback corner, but, injuries, suspensions, you need him to shift outside. I think he has the skill set, but you don't want to get stuck doing that week in and week out. You'll just be killed too many times. All right. John Murphy, Ryan Roberts, Joe Everett, Rick Serritella, NFL Draft Bible Live. Let's get more predictions inside this top 10 here. Give people a little bit of a clarity as much as we can. I have a feeling that third pick is going to be some kind of trade and our whole top 10 mock is going to be blown up. But we're moving right along, Joe. Number 7, Carolina is where I get confused. Where is the mainstream media just not paying attention here? Because I know Coach Rule pretty well. If he had a choice between Derek Brown and Javon Kinlaw, I believe 10 out of 10 times he's going to go Kinlaw. However, it's Derek Brown who I see constantly, consistently being mocked to Carolina. Your thoughts?
That's how my mock reads, and I think Derek Brown's not to be underscored as one of the best tackles in the class. I think Kinlaw is a great player, and boy, off the bus, that's how you want your players to look. But I trust the teammates that Derek Brown's had, Dishon Davis, running out of trying to recall the other kid that from Auburn that said it, but like both of these guys speak of him in reverence. I mean, just like a superhero out there. So I'm going to trust those kids know what they're talking about in ball. And also just the tape. Derek Brown's just a monster of a man. I think you put him next to Kiki Short. Hopefully Short's back to full health and full strength and protect those linebackers that you got. Brown, to me, I really think in a different class, he may even go higher than what he's going to go. So Carolina, I don't know, you don't sprint to the podium in this pandemic, but you click refresh and hit accept and tell Goodell that's the name, because I think that's who's off the board. And that, to me, it's DT for them is clear need.
Well, listen, I thought Derek Brown was a top 5 guy if he came out last year, and I would have no problem if he went number 3 this year. But, John, I look at what Matt Rule has done in the past at Temple, at Baylor. He's always won with speed. To me, Kinlaw is just the more explosive, quicker, faster athlete. To me, I think Rule would be drooling over a guy like that.
Yeah, I think they're the other team. They're the next time that I could see, if Atlanta hasn't made their move yet, if Denver or someone's trying to get in there, above to get all, get on the, jump on the wide receiver train before the Jets and the Raiders. I could see Carolina wanting more picks, wanting to do more things, which, would make sense for them. If not, I'm on with you. I got it with Kinlaw, and I don't think it has anything to do with Derek Brown, much like, if Jacksonville or someone comes up and takes CJ Henderson, it's not going to be because they don't have a good grade on Akuda. It's just going to be their personal preference. And I think he likes to play, like positionless football, that their 3 and their 5, can be a 3 or a 5. It doesn't matter, and if you put 2 guys like Short on the field, it becomes a problem for, for people to deal with. And I think you can move Kinlaw around a little bit more. And as long as his medical grade, checked out, I don't think there's an issue, but that's also to me why Carolina is a very likely trade partner, because if that is true and they might perceive Kinlaw to be a better fit for them, all the more reason why Carolina does select Kinlaw, but it's just not at 7, that they've made the move down with somebody into the teens and they get the same player they would have taken at 7, which is, I think, how they would eyeball the same opportunity.
Ryan, you pull the league and you hear, half the teams have Kinlaw, half the teams have Derek Brown. Obviously, Matt Rule is another wild card in itself, his first kind of rodeo at the big stage here in the NFL level. Do you see defensive tackle there for Carolina? If so, who is it?
So, I mean, the pick that would make the most sense, I think, is defensive tackle. Now, obviously, the conversation we're having is which one is his flavor. I think John hit on the positionless football. When you would think of a standard front, you would think of a 1-tech shade and you would think of a 3-tech. Now, Short fits into that 3-tech mold, quote unquote. So your thought would be Derek Brown fits, playing with short probably a little better than Javon Kinlaw does. But to your point, Rick, the valuing speed, valuing, creating different looks on the line of scrimmage, it kind of fits towards the Kinlaw conversation better. One position, though, that I think is going to be an interesting one, and I don't know if you guys even have thought about this, but I know they're talking about getting rid of DJ Moore, trading him potentially, trading Curtis Samuel, the wide receiver. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the spot for the first wide receiver off the board. Now, who that is, we talk about some weird ones, right? Like obviously the CD Lambs, the Jerry Judys, the Henry Ruggs are kind of talked about a lot, but Justin Jefferson was just with Mr. Joe Brady, the new offensive coordinator, down there in LSU winning the national championship. I think that is a sneaky spot for the first wide receiver off the board if one of those trades does happen with those wide receivers.
That's interesting. And I only say that because I just looked at the FanDuel odds and said, wow, first wide receiver off the board, Justin Jefferson is $100 to win $5,000.
This ain't gonna happen.
If you really think that Justin Jefferson can be the first receiver, hey, throw a little C note there. You get back $5,000. I like the Joe Brady connection. It's not out of this world. Probably somewhat more of a long shot than the other possibilities that we're talking about. But God,
we're trying to make money, man. Right? I mean, I'm trying to throw some long shots out there.
Hey, yeah.
I like it. Definitely a wild card there. I will say I see Okudah as the one landing spot for Carolina should he slide out from 3. I don't see it. I think they'll look to build from the trenches and go on that defensive line. Let's go over to the 8th pick, Arizona. I think we can all assume this is an offensive tackle. It's just which one. Joe, I believe Arizona's building something special here. They got Kyler Murray. They bring over Nuke Hopkins. They've still got Fitzgerald in the mix. Christian Kirk is an up-and-comer. The UMass kid is still there as the number 4 receiver. I mean, now they're going to add a cornerstone franchise left tackle. I think Arizona's a team positioned to really catapult into a playoff contender this year.
I mean, that wide receiver core certainly is an island of misfit toys right now. To me, the acquiring Hopkins and their draft last year with Akeem Butler and Isabella, that spells bad omens for Christian Kirk, who is not really like Kingsbury's guy. I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're Steve Keim's guy. I mean, I don't know about Steve Keim, so I'm more confident in what Kingsbury wants to do right now. And yeah, if I was Christian Kirk, if you're his agent or something, you got to be thinking like, which team, what's the next destination? And you need to have a good season wherever you're playing ball, because I think he may get moved, maybe even tomorrow at some point during the draft. But I agree with you. You got to give Kyler Murray more time. You want this 4 wide spread system to work. We need to protect the franchise, which it is. I think they would take the best available left. I think really they're praying that Thomas from Georgia is available. And if that's the case, I think they're smiling ear to ear.
John, in your scenario, Thomas is already off the board. How do you see Arizona playing it?
Yeah, I got the flip-flop. I'm saying that, Thomas is a better fit for the Giants, who are kind of still trapped in, back in the 80s. And, at times with, their prototypes. And I think Wirfs now, with that athletic ability, playing in that style offense makes a lot of sense. If he's still there for Arizona, to have that kind of athletic ability, knowing that they're going to move the pocket, knowing that, their quarterback can take off and roll, when you want guys downfield being able to block, well, an athlete like him is, a proven commodity, to be able to do that. And I don't think if Christian Kirk is looking to go too far, that those stars on Joe's shirt, that'll be the indicator of where Christian Kirk ends up, right about back to where he played his college ball at College Station. I got a feeling that he'll be a Dallas Cowboy sooner or later.
Would make a lot of sense. I know we got our guy Mook Williams coming up here shortly. I want to get through the top 10. Let's move on to Jacksonville, Ryan, because there's a team that could potentially take a quarterback. And if they do, I give Jacksonville a lot of credit, because you're hearing nothing out of the Jacksonville camp that implies that they could be sniffing around any of these quarterbacks. You don't hear it at all. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I kind of would, just because they've covered it up so well leading up to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they have done their homework probably on this quarterback class. If their guy is falling there, I feel like they would be, and they also have the extra draft cap, was where they have the number 20 overall pick too. So if your guy's falling, you could even make a move to maybe move up a couple spots to secure. I think though my biggest destination here is we just talked about Arizona a little bit. I think Arizona is probably a likely trade back candidate with Atlanta Falcons, the one that we talked about a little bit earlier. So I think that they might try to jump Jacksonville because we know Jacksonville needs a corner. So I feel like that might be where the C.J. Henderson bubble starts. Arizona jumps Atlanta, and Jacksonville. Jacksonville's stuck there. I think Jacksonville might end up being maybe that wide receiver destination. They might pick a wide receiver there because is there a corner at 9 if Henderson and Okudah off the board? That's where the question starts. Is there a wide receiver that's worthy there? In my opinion, there is. So I feel like wide receiver might be a good destination, but an interesting conversation on the quarterback because, you'd only spend a 6th-round pick on Gardner Minshew. It's not like you have incredible capital paid into that position. You know what I mean? So I feel like to improve that room, kind of like we talked about yesterday, to maybe get your guy if Gardner's not the one that you think is absolutely the future is a great conversation to have. I just think it's cornerback if C.J. Henderson falls to 9, and then maybe wide receiver otherwise.
John, you're conducting the Jacksonville draft. Where do you go with this pick?
Yeah, I am sticking there and taking Henderson. I think if there was a move, it would be that if you have fallen in love with the prototype of what you think Jordan Love can be, there's a great opportunity. You're picking at 9. You've kind of been able to just, steer the course. You get in your mind, you get a guy that could be a franchise quarterback. And the best news for you is you have Minshew to play. And in the future, if he's not a guy, he would be a really good backup, right? He would be a really good change of pace guy. Obviously, you've seen what kind of guy he is in the locker room. So, he probably doesn't go completely off the rails, if he ever were to lose the job. And it gives you time to invest in Jordan Love that you've never had the time. You've never spent time really to invest in a long-term journey. You took Bortles, but you had to throw him really right into the fire, immediately. And he never got to, really, have the ebb and flow, there. It was his job and they were off and running with him, so I could see it being something like that. If not because of pick 20, I could see them, taking a quarterback there. If that was a guy, it does not seem like that's in their mindset. I think they feel like Minshew is good enough to roll with. And so I'm going to go with C.J. Henderson.
There you go. And then just rounding out the top 10, we'll get Luke on, Joe, real quick. Cleveland, is it anything other than a tackle here?
It's got to be. I mean, whatever tackles remaining, they're desperate at this point. That roster, what it needs, you've got all the talent in the world on the outside perimeters. Keep Baker clean. I mean, that's predictable as it is. That's the direction I'd go.
Yeah, I think that's the consensus best available tackle on the board. And we've got the best available talents in the chat room joining us right now. He is Mook Williams. And I'm very happy to say that NFL Draft Bible Consulting has really made some huge strides this year in helping both players and agents throughout the draft process, navigating through this unorthodox process with the whole coronavirus pandemic. He's also the co-founder of Vayner Sports. He is Mook Williams. We welcome him into the show right now. And Mook, I don't recognize you without the suit today, brother. What's it?
Well, the suit has definitely been retired during the quarantine. That's for sure. Instead, I'm going to sport the Mook Spruce shirt. So,
Well,
on IG, daily beer reviews every single day for all you craft beer fans out there. Check it out.
Nice.
and we were going to plug that anyway. I was going to do it at the beginning. That's okay. I'm over here talking 2 hours a day. Why don't you talk to our listening audience and just tell the people at home about this new NFL Draft Bible Consulting Services that we launched this year?
Well, and I think it's an interesting time for this service to have launched. We launched it back in November, kind of a soft launch, really didn't push it too hard. I think this year is when it's going to be a lot more information out about it. But essentially it was started at first with the idea of helping players get through the draft process, primarily without necessarily either the need for an agent or to supplement an agent, meaning that our service gets compensated with a way lesser fee up front than you would have to pay over the course of a 3 to 4 or 5 year agent relationship. And we basically do a lot of the stuff that I used to do as a certified player agent. I retired last summer in June. So that's everything from, help you out at the All-Star games, help arrange workouts, promote you to all the teams, teach you how to put together a competent video package, which is certainly very relevant right now, unfortunately. Also, what we've learned though is through this process, yes, we've had some good traction with players, but we've had even better traction with agents. So younger agents have been hiring us, and it's basically a way, if you're a younger agent, if you retain us, it's a way to accelerate through the school of hard knocks without losing $200,000 or 5 years worth of time or whatever. You don't get to make the $60,000 mistakes that I made. I could just guide you and give you some advice that hopefully allows you to prevent most of those errors without learning it the hard way. That's been pretty exciting as well. Lately, over the last month, I've been teaching my undrafted free agent techniques to some younger agents. I believe I had the best system in the game when I was practicing, and now it's pretty cool to teach that system to some younger agents. It's something that doesn't come, it's not something that you could just put in place in a day or two. This is a month-long process, basically, really detailed. It's almost like a reverse draft board. You are grading all the teams at all the positions that you have players, looking at all the key contracts, looking at Pro Football Focus snaps from the previous season or two, and see where guys got snaps and how many snaps they got, injury history, all that kind of stuff, and then coming up with a game day strategy on day 3 of the draft. Because on day 3 of the draft, and I think this is something that's undercovered, and I understand why it's undercovered by the media. It's not too sexy to the general fan out there, but things happen on day 3 of the draft in a matter of potentially 20 to 30 seconds that could make or break somebody's entire career, whether it's one phone conversation you had, even one sentence you may have uttered or not uttered, could literally change the fate of somebody that's going in the late rounds or trying to get a job in undrafted free agency. And this year, undrafted free agency is going to be more chaotic and unpredictable than ever.
No doubt. Yeah. And I mean, our agent clients have been ecstatic with the information that you've provided them, especially with that undrafted free agent process. And I'm sure you know this guy, John Murphy. I'm sure you've had some negotiations.
That's right.
John, say hello to Mook. John, what do you got for him?
So it's probably a little less stressful being in this environment, compared to in past years. What would you think, like when you're looking at it, from having been in both sides of the business now, what would be your biggest trepidation if you had a client that wasn't a for sure high end guy, but was kind of, you were guessing, the guessing game that would go along with things, not having a pro day, not having that journey. That we're saying, hey, that's a lot of the reason why so many of these mock drafts and things are going to be so wrong compared to, the past, is that there's none of that chit chat that came out from the scouts to the agents, and then the agents to the media, or the media to the scouts and agents. All of that kind of evaporated. How difficult do you think it would be this year to really know where you had a confidence level, to say to your client, hey, I see you kind of between pick 30 and 50. Well, this year it might be between pick 30 and pick 100.
Mm-hmm.
How did you kind of measure, dealing with, kind of keeping everybody's temperature, kind of at the lowest mark, when really this, 36 hours ahead of the draft, yeah, there's a lot of excitement, but for a lot of players, there's also a lot of trepidation.
Yeah, I think it's impossible to have a lot of confidence in this process once you're beyond the first maybe 10 picks. I mean, after that, who knows what's going to happen. So I'm normally an optimist, but to speak a little bit about the potential pitfalls that could happen. I mean, here you had approximately half the players in the draft class not even have a pro day. There were some guys at the combine that elected to do a little bit or none at all that are probably deeply regretting that right now. So you even had some guys at the combine that didn't even have a real workout. You know, you had some other guys elect to skip all-star games that are probably deeply regretting that right now. So I've been talking a bunch with people on the team side that are right in the war rooms right now, and you know, trying to the virtual war room. Of course, there's no physical war room this year on their side either. So you know, been speaking with a lot of them, and a lot of them don't know what's going to happen either. They're just hoping the Wi-Fi stays strong, and you know, that whatever video connection they're using works well. But I'd say to agents, especially those maybe in the later rounds or undrafted free agency, you just have to prepare for whatever circumstance may come up. You know, I'm a trial attorney. I've been an attorney now for 19 years, and that's kind of the approach I've been taking with our agent clients. Is that look, and their attorneys as well. So it's easier to give them this example. But when you step into a courtroom, you don't know if that judge is going to be in a bad mood, really happy, you just want to get out of there. You think if you're taking testimony, you know what the witness is going to say, but who knows? They could have a bad day too. They could forget something. Who knows? So it's very analogous to this situation. You know what's going to happen with the framework. You know how the picks are going to be made. You know what undrafted free agency is, but it could go totally off the rails. So you just have to have a few different scenarios and prepare for all of them. We don't even know if undrafted free agent phase, I was saying it was going to be chaotic. It could be dead. It could be, if I'm a team here, I'm only going to target my top 4 or 5 guys. I'm going to use most of my undrafted free agency money on them, which in the CBA, you are limited. The amount of signing bonus money you put out in undrafted free agency has a cap to it. So if I'm a team, I'm probably only going to figure out, all right, who are the guys that I had draftable that are still out there at positions we needed. I'm going to go target 4 or 5 guys hard. I'm going to overspend on those guys. And on Sunday, I'm going to decide, do I really want to fill out all 90 spots on my roster? Maybe we'll take it to 85. We don't know how long we're going to be out. Do I just sign a guy with no signing bonus just to have him? I don't have medicals on them. Medicals are crazy important right now, because do you really want to draft a guy that you're unsure about medically? And granted, you know, there were extensive physicals done in late February, but, you know, here we are now in late April. A lot can change even with the guys that had medicals done on them in late February. And then you have a whole bunch of guys that didn't have any medicals done at all. There are definitely guys, because of the coronavirus, that would have had a successful NFL career that will have no career. I guarantee you that's been an impact. And vice versa. There's probably a few safe draft choices now, established players from established schools that have a ton of tape that's really easy to watch, that you may have already watched, that, you know, you're reasonably confident or in a good physical condition, that those guys now might get drafted in the later rounds, or they might get signed as undrafted free agency. And maybe they would have been pushed off by the pro day studs, you know, that might have impressed the hell out of some scouts that were taking them lightly. So it's really hard. I'm glad I'm not an agent in this draft because, John, to answer your question, to advise a client, you really just have to say, look, just stay in your own mind, stay confident, stay strong. We can't guarantee what's going to happen here. I mean, you can't guarantee it anyway with any other draft, but especially this one, it's new to everybody on both sides. So I would just advise somebody to keep a positive mindset. If something negative happens, if you don't get signed, you don't get drafted, stay ready, because what some people inside of teams are telling me is that when the dam finally bursts and we get back to either normal or something much better than where we are right now, there could be mass tryouts. You know, there's a few teams in the league that are carrying dozens under 90 right now. And you know that when this process ends on Saturday night, there's going to be a bunch of teams that are just going to leave empty roster spots. So when that dam finally bursts, there could be a tryout camp or a long day of workouts, whatever it may be. So just crazy uncharted waters ahead. And, you know, I would just tell everybody to try and be optimistic and stay physically and mentally ready, because nobody knows what's ahead. Yeah. Rick, you're muted. There you go.
Let me use my button there. But Mook Williams here, NFL Draft Bible Consulting, of course, retired NFL PA agent for over a decade, co-founder of Vayner Sports. We got about 3 minutes until our next guest, so let's get one more question in over to Ryan Roberts. What do you got for Mook, brother?
Yeah, Mook, it was really it was really fitting when I was hearing you talk about the Wi-Fi going out, because my Wi-Fi went out too. So I was out here for a couple minutes here. But I'm just curious. I know obviously we talked about these unprecedented times, the ability to navigate these tough situations for these young men, for the ages you even talked about briefly. Is there another event, during your time working this process where you remember, I'm not going to say similar, but another event or situation that really kind of altered the NFL draft landscape to a degree and maybe was just a tough navigation for some people?
Yes, the 2011 lockout absolutely was a little microcosm of what this is. That year, the lockout occurred right when Mr. Irrelevant was drafted, and that's it. There was no undrafted free agency. That's it. Lockout started, no mini camps, no nothing, just like this year, no mini camps. And then when it finally opened, the undrafted free agency happened. I think it was in August. And I actually got a couple of guys signed, and that was totally – I got one guy signed. A great friend of mine, James McCluskey out of Boston College, fullback. But I think I might have got somebody fired when I convinced him to sign somebody who had 10 concussions and who then got a concussion in training camp and sat on the IR all year long and collected a nice paycheck and then retired. But you may have stuff like that happen as well this year, where you're gonna sign guys undrafted or draft them, and they might have had the worst, red flag going, and they probably wouldn't have been brought onto the team at that time, and it's just gonna slip through the cracks.
Well, Mook, we appreciate you hopping on board here and bringing the people up to par on what we got going on with the NFL Draft Bible Consulting. Of course, you can follow Mook at Mook Williams. And he's got the Instagram page going on, Mook Spurs. Tell us real quick.
That's right.
A little bit more, Mook.
Daily craft beer reviews. I'm still cranking them out every day. I got plenty more time to drink, and I got a giant stash of beer in the basement. So I'll be talking 60 seconds about a new beer every single day. Tune in. We could all use some good beer right now, I think.
Yeah, I go to Instagram for Mook's reviews, and then I text him my beer reviews.
I like that. We're going to put you on. We do accept guest reviews. Anybody wants to send in a guest review, I'll put you on. What's up, Dane? I just saw you join.
What up, Mook? How we doing, bud?
Yeah,
hello.
Pretty good.
Hey, man, if you have any issue getting rid of some of that beer, man, I got an address you can send it to.
I might. I got some. I'm drinking some beer right now that should not still be there. It's sat around way too long. So I'm not spending another $1 on beer until I clean out that stash.
Yeah, there you go. What's your specialty, man?
I mean, I like everything but Kolsch. Kolsch is my one beer style I don't like. Everything beyond that. Way too many hazy IPAs, packing on the calories. So I'm trying to counter that by working out.
Give us the Mook Brew beer of the day. Give us one.
Give us I'm going to actually post a review later today of a Treehouse Stout called I Will Not Be Afraid. And I reviewed it in the snowstorm that we got a few days ago up here in Massachusetts. So pretty odd for mid-April, but it's a breakfast type beer, has a lot of coffee and chocolate in it. Not too sweet, and perfect to drink in the snow or if you're quarantined in the basement at any time of the year.
It's appropriate for this year's draft class. So, hey, Mook, appreciate the time, brother. We'll chat soon, and I know we'll be chatting sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Take care, guys. Thank you.
See you, bud.
And we got Dane Vandernat hopping on board, our Director of College Recruiting for the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, just in time for us to chat it up with Ray Wilborn from Ball State. Dane, who I know you were kind of hot to trot on early on in the process. You said, hey, Ball State's got some players here. Tell us a little bit about Ray.
Yeah, well, it's not often that you see a linebacker moving back to safety. Usually it's the other way around. And we all know that NFL teams are always looking to get more speed on the field and looking to be more athletic for coverage purposes. So that's why typically, you see the guys coming down into the box. But Ray, this last year, went back. And, I was a little curious, obviously, to see what he'd show up down at the NFLPA weigh-in. But came in at 230, man, was looking really good, flying around. We know he can run. Hey, Ray, what'd you run at your pro day, man? Unmute us, Ray. You got to throw us some sound.
Get that audio.
We can send Bob Quinn's guy over with his RV and hook him up.
We got to get Ray, the IT guy in his basement there, to get the technical You got to just approve the audio, I think, Ray, and you'll be good to go. But yeah, we had him out at the NFL PA Bowl there, Dane, and a lot of rave reviews from the scouts in attendance. And Ray, do you have audio there yet?
It might be in another tab of your browser on the phone.
Hey, Joe, I like that Cole McDonald fan club, the little label there, man.
Like a little placard there.
Looking
Totally
good.
screwing me.
Yeah.
Represent.
All right, so Dakota, hopefully we get it situated there. Maybe you can work with Ray and get his audio right.
I think he said everything you need to say about him right there, Ray.
Yeah.
I think he really captured what we were thinking about him.
I mean, as soon as you said 6'4", 230 safety, I was done. I was good to go.
I'm good now.
Oh, there he is. Hey,
Yeah.
Ray, tell the people, man, what you ran, man. Tell them how fast you are.
I ran a 4.56.
4.56, man. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, for 230 pounds, I mean, that's prototypical. That's what you're looking for. He's a man. He's got some size. He flies around. I love his aggressiveness. I mean, Ray, my only knock was I thought that sometimes I needed to see you come a little bit more to balance and make sure you wrap up on some tackles, man. But
Right.
what are you working on, man? I mean, what part of your game you think is the biggest thing you need to change or that you want to improve on, I should say?
Definitely that. I thought about that. Just how you seen it, I felt it too. So I definitely want to work on that because I know I'm able to. And just being quicker, lateral movement and like small spaces. That's something I want to work on too.
All right, let's go over. You're on with Rick Serritella, John Murphy, Dane Vandernat, Joe Everett, Ryan Roberts. Let's go over to Joe Everett. You got a question for Ray?
Yeah, how important was your 2 years at Garden City under Jeff Sims and that staff? And were you in the team that played against the Last Chance Indy team? And if so, how good did it feel to get that rematch against them and beat them?
I was in the second season, but we weren't the featured team, and we ended up losing to Indy that year. But the year before that is the year we won the national championship, and the show ended up coming the year after that. But we actually didn't beat them that year. But playing for Sims and Garden City, I feel like that just molded me as a football player I am today. Like that was probably the hardest thing I had to do as far as football. With the whole situation, you guys have an idea how junior college is. It was definitely it was a learning experience.
All right, let's go over to John Murphy with the question.
Hey, when you've talked to teams and been interacting with them in this kind of in this kind of forum, how have they been able to ask you or do things on the board with you? Have you been able to? Have they kind of had you drawing things up on your own? Have they kind of put things up and then had you describe what you're seeing and what you're doing on film? How have they kind of interacted with you on that platform?
Some teams FaceTime and they'll just put the phone up, post the phone up, and just do stuff on the board and have me do it. At the NFLPA game, at the meetings, we really didn't do any board work, but I kind of feel like some teams already assume I'm a pretty smart football player because I didn't play two positions already. So playing safety, you got to know the whole defense. So I feel like they got a good feel that I'm like an intelligent football player.
Hey, Ray, I'm curious to know, since you met with so many teams there at the NFLPA Bowl, does there seem to be a consensus where teams prefer you? Are you hearing linebacker or are you hearing safety? What's been the feedback there?
Most teams want me to play linebacker, Will, Sam, or like inside, but some teams have a nickelbacker as their base defense, and some because I'm kind of like a tweener. But some teams are saying middle linebacker. I haven't got any team that say they actually want me to play safety. But yeah, probably nickelbacker would be another thing.
All right, Ray Wilborn here, Ball State, on the NFL Draft Bible live stream show. I see our Southeast Regional Scout Vaughn Hutchins chiming in here. We'll throw him right into the mix. Welcome into the show, Vaughn. You got a question for Ray? Vaughn, you got get your audio right, Vaughn, and we'll go. Oh, there you go.
I'm just getting started, man. It's early in the day, man. We got digital learning day out here with the kids, man. So I'm getting them all prepped up and ready. But Ray, man, how's it been going? How's the process been for you?
I mean, it's definitely been kind of weird dealing with COVID-19, but I mean, I'm excited. I kind of don't know what to expect because I never it hasn't been somebody ahead of me in this situation, but it's just been different calls, talking to different teams, like meetings on the phone. So I'm just excited.
Well, just let us know how everything at Ball State, how those guys at Ball State helped you to just become a better player, a better person, and how it's kind of translated over to this process right here.
First coming in, Ball State showed me nothing but love, and like just knowing that the team really like you as a football player and as a person, that gave me like a boost as far as me developing to the player I am today. Like I could just be comfortable and you know what I'm saying, focus on football. You know, so I feel like they helped out a lot with that because they showed me nothing but love and encouragement.
By any chance, did you have Coach Chevis Jackson?
Yeah, that's my boy.
That's my dog.
Yeah,
Played with old Chev down with the Falcons. So we got some mutual people between us. So I'm glad that he was able to kind of relay some of the messages that I know that we've been taught to you so that it can help you moving forward, even his experiences.
Yeah. He definitely a coach where his personality will stick around even when he left.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm sure them J's too.
Man, he got every shoe.
Yeah, you know, watching this Last Dance documentary with the old school Jordans and stuff takes me back. We got Ryan Roberts. I know you got a question for Ray. What do you got?
Yeah, Ray, I know we're getting that trend now, right? We saw with Derwin James, the tweeners. We see this year with Jeremy Chin, Isaiah Simmons. You guys kind of all fit that safety, linebacker, hybrid role. Do you ever pay attention to any of the other guys in the class? Or if not, is there anybody in the NFL maybe that you try to model your game after a little bit?
I wouldn't necessarily say I model my game after anybody, but as far as in this draft, Isaiah Simmons is definitely he's a prime example of a tweener. He can play everything on the field. So I've been paying attention to him, but I don't really model my game after anybody.
All right, let's go back over to Dane Vandernat for a question. You got something else for Raymond? Audio?
Yes. Audio, my bad. Sorry, guys. No, Ray, I mean, I just wanted to ask you, man, tell us about the NFLPA experience overall. I mean, what'd you go in expecting, and then kind of what was the feel while you were out there, man? What'd you take away from the experience?
I really didn't know what to expect. I just knew it was going to be a lot of talent at the game. I was checking out the roster and stuff. That's probably the only thing I expected. But when I got there, the schedule was like camp. It was all day. When I first flew out, I didn't go to sleep for 24 hours from the plane all the way until going to sleep there. So the schedule was all crazy, and we was up all night meeting with teams. But it was definitely a good experience. It was in probably the best hotel in California. They treated us well, but it was a long schedule every day.
No doubt. We actually had two Ball State guys out there. Your teammate Danny Pinter, somebody that you're familiar with, just going up and practice day in and day out. Give us, I think we're pretty much familiar with what Danny brings to the table. But for our listening audience at home, describe your teammate.
Danny is the definition of a leader. He's the type of guy you want on your football team. He's just football all the time. So just having him on our team, leading that O-line, he's definitely a guy that you would want to get behind.
All right. Back over to Joe Everett. Joe, you got a question for Ray?
What were your goals entering the senior season this last year of college football? What did you want to accomplish, and did you meet those goals?
I didn't really have any personal goals. I kind of just want to win games and just play my best. Whatever, whatever happens. But I just my focus was probably just to win more games because we had a bad season the year before. So that was probably my only focus. And I was playing a new position, so I really didn't set any expectations. You know what I'm saying?
All right, Ray. Well, hey, man, we appreciate you taking some time here and hopping on before the draft. We're looking forward to seeing where you land. Any shout outs, thank yous, or parting shots out there for the people before we let you go?
Shout out to everybody supporting me, man. I need it all. I appreciate it all.
All right, well, we're looking forward to it, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. Tell our guy Rilio we said what's up. We know you're in good hands there, and we'll be chatting soon, my man.
Yep, thank you.
Good luck this week, bud.
Thank
Ray
you.
Wilborn there. Ball State, definitely a name you need to know for the upcoming 2020 NFL draft, as is Danny Pinter, another guy that we had out in Pasadena that, we were all thoroughly impressed with. Our next guest is going to be Trey Dishon from Kansas State, a guy that is flying under the radar here. So we want to give him his time to shine, and we welcome him into the show right now. Trey, are you with us? How you doing today? Let's get your audio right, my man. There's a setting there that we got to get right. Dakota, you got to get these guys tight. In the meantime, I will tell you that Trey recently had a pro day workout, had some pretty impressive numbers despite working out through an injury. So 179, 10-yard split, I think, with a leg injury there. So, he's on the radar. And also, there's been some interest from some teams to see him at offensive line as well. So maybe a defensive line, offensive line convert there. Dane, I think you were at Kansas State earlier this year. Anything you can tell us about Trey?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he checks a lot of the boxes, especially from an intangible standpoint. When you go there and you talk to the staff, you talk to the coaches, they can't say enough good things about Trey's work habits, his leadership, his lunch pail, toughness, gritty type mentality and makeup. And, they told me that he'd likely be voted a captain this year, and he certainly was. So I think when you're talking about from an intangible standpoint, we're talking about a guy that checks every box. You mentioned potentially switching to guard. There was some talk about that. I know in the scouting community, there's been some intrigue in doing something like that. But, hey, I think for smart, tough football players that play through the whistle, I think you can always find a spot on your team for them.
No doubt about it. And hopefully we've got Trey's audio worked out. I saw him drop off here, Dakota. Did we lose Trey, or do we have Trey?
We've overcome every obstacle.
I'm working on it. He just popped out, so as soon as he comes back in, we'll see what's working.
All right, well, hopefully we get Trey back on here. We just had Ray Wilborn. Dane, I'm going to stick with you on the Ball State team because, again, another school you went into, and Danny Pinter, you were tooting that horn pretty hard, and then we got out to Pasadena. I said, man, this guy, I would not be surprised round 3, maybe round 4. I think Danny Pinter is a guy that's going to come off the board relatively early and maybe surprise some people.
Yeah, we may have to get a bet going on who's going to be the top NFLPA Bowl player drafted this year, and I think that Danny Pinter's right there in the mix of it. I think when you're talking about a guy who obviously blew up the combine and impressed with athletic measurables there, but more importantly, you see that on tape when you watch him in the fall especially, and you're talking about a guy that converted from tight end to offensive tackle. You see those athletic traits, again, similar to Trey, who we're going to get here. You see the intangibles, you see the toughness, you see the desire to finish with Danny Pinter. So, a lot of things I think that he's got going for him, and he'll be vying for that top spot.
Well, like we said, another guy who's got some good things going for him, boosting his momentum leading up to the draft, is Trey Dishon, Kansas State. I think we got the audio right now. Trey, how
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I had to get that figured out.
All good, my man. How's everything going for you? Obviously, with the pandemic, it's been an unorthodox process for all of us here. How have you been able to maintain through it all?
Yeah, it's been wild. So actually, with everything closing down and everything, I decided to go back to Horton, Kansas and finish my training until, things get back going and we can get back into the programs after the draft. But just being I guess, crafty with what you're doing. Pushing on a hay bale or hitting a tree or, just something in the farm, around the farm, something you got to work out somehow. So
we call that country strong in the NFL, man. So, you get out there, you have that, you throw around some hay bales, you're lugging some sacks of feed, whatever it may be, man. Hey, that's what makes you nice and thick and ready to go,
That's right.
That's what they do out there in Kansas. I'm out here in Jersey. We got Joe Everett out there in Indy. You got a question for Trey?
Yeah, Trey, last season you guys beat the Sooners. You gave them their only regular season loss. You were 24-point underdogs. Don't ask me how I know. But how big a party did you all have after that, and what was the atmosphere in the locker room and the new staff, and just describe that moment?
Man, it was a great, wild feeling. I played a lot of great Sooner teams in my 4 years playing here at Kansas State, and they were a great team. And that was a team that was one of the teams I'd never beaten in the Big 12. So beating them on homecoming as a senior at home, the atmosphere was insane. People rushed the field, and not only that, but just getting Coach Clyde that win and showing him that he can win with the big dogs.
Go over to Ryan Roberts with a question for Trey.
Yeah, Trey. I mean, you mentioned Coach Kleiman a little bit already, but I wanted to ask about the experience of playing under him and what were you able to learn from them, and how have they been able to help you throughout this process and just the ability to become a better football player?
The one thing I learned about him is kind of going off of Coach Snyder's stuff is I like the first thing he ever told me was just be on time and do things right. And those were his only two rules. And that kind of gives leadership to the guys, the players. And, you know, it's a players program when a coach gives the players the role. And they take the fire and they run with it. And I think that's how you get ownership in your program. And he said, you know, do what's right, be on time, and don't create any problems. And if that's what you do, then that's how it'll be, and we're going to win games. And depending on when that comes, I'm just so excited for Kansas State football now that I'm gone. I wish I told him I had another year with him or so, but.
Hey, you left it in a good spot. You know, we're going around the horn here with Trey, Dishon, Kansas State, and we'll go over to John Murphy for the next question.
Hey, Trey, I think one of the best, you know, compliments you can get is, you know, to listen to your position coach who had coached, you know, good 15, 20 years. And for him to say, you know, he has not had a guy that he would point to and say, you know, at this point starting forward, his comparison for D tackles is basically centered around somebody like yourself. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's obviously a team sport, and now you're going to the draft. What does it mean when you're saying you're excited about Kansas State football? What does it mean to you to know that how you played and the type of guy you were with, you know, your teammates and in your room, that your position coach in the future will be telling the next Trey Dishon that he has to measure up to you? What does that mean to you to leave that kind of effect at a program?
Yeah, it kind of gives me chills just talking about it right now. Just because I never thought I'd be in this process, be in this position, and be talking about Trey Dishon being a football player the way he is right now. But, man, starting there, it started with Will Geary and Travis Britz, the two defensive tackles who were older than me when I was redshirting out of high school there. Those were the guys who were, you know, they had the exact physique of everything we needed for a defensive tackle to play in our scheme. And I lived up to that as far as just putting in work ethic. And I think that's what sets me aside from a lot of people in this business is I'm willing to put in the work in the overtime. And those are the little things where you find your edge. And that's something that my position coach and Coach Kleiman told us as they came as well, is like, you got to find your edge in the details. What are you going to do that somebody else isn't? And that's where I hope those guys, you know, carry that torch and find the edge in the details.
No doubt. Well, Trey, we're looking forward to seeing what the draft weekend brings for you. I know I'll be in communication with Eric. I know you're in good hands there. Tell him we said what's up, and looking forward to seeing where you land. Any parting shots for the people? Shout outs, thank you that you want to throw out there.
Shout out to my family. Shout out Kansas State, and thank you for this journey. That's it.
All right. We'll be talking, my man. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, all right,
good luck, bud.
Hey, Dishon, Kansas State. Here on the NFL Draft Bible Live Show, we're going to pop up Cole Christiansen from Army, who we also had at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. And Ryan, I know you've had a chance to dig into Cole. Give us a little preview of his game before we welcome him into the show. And Cole, I see you up there. Just make sure your audio's right, get your mic right, and Ryan's going to break you down here real quick.
Gotcha. How you doing, gentlemen?
Doing great, man.
How's it going, Cole?
Good, real good.
And so when we're looking at someone like Cole Christiansen, having the opportunity to break down his film, talking people close to him, his agent Vince, he's first and foremost a first-class person. We see that very easily, but on the film, he is an exceptionally talented football player. He's got some really nice movement skills. Moving laterally, moving in pass coverage, doing types of things, and ultra just competitive. That pops off the screen easy, but the production also over the last couple of years for a very improved Army program over the last few years. He's one of the big reasons why a stalwart for that defense. Cole has done just an excellent job over the last few years for the Black Knights.
No doubt. And Cole, I know you've been a busy man there, leading up to the draft with the Zoom chat interview and talking stuff. How has that whole process gone for you?
It's been going really well. It's really exciting. There's definitely been a lot of buzz and interest happening in the last couple weeks, so it's exciting to see what's going to happen. I'm ready for it to go down. I feel like I've been talking and chatting and working out for a year and a half now, it feels like. So I'm ready to finally get this draft going and see what happens.
Well, you had a solid week out there in Pasadena, big 8 tackles in the game.
Yes, sir.
You probably remember Von Hutchins, who was out there at the NFLPA Bowl, so he's got a question for you.
Yeah, sure. What's going on, man? How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Me being a former player, playing in Ole Miss, playing in the league, I understand the time restraints and constraints and just the workload and just the organization it takes and what I learned from college and from the league. Tell me about what you learned from the football program at Army as opposed to what it was like playing at a service academy with the different types of things that you had to do outside of ball and outside of school.
Yeah, it was the best thing for me. And I'm so thankful I got an opportunity to play at Army and West Point because it makes you a problem solver, because they intentionally give you more than you can handle, because in stressful combat environments, there's going to be so much happening that you have to pick and choose what's really important and prioritize your time and figure out how to devote energy into the places it needs to go. And I think that's something that every college football player does, that because you have your academic demands, your workouts, but being forced to be a football player, a student at a top tier institution, and being a soldier and learning how to be a lieutenant and lead soldiers in combat, balancing those 3 things at the same time really was invaluable for me. And I'm a totally different person now after going there and learning the leadership skills that I got from that and how to prioritize my time in a way that lets me be successful in all 3 pillars of my life.
Yeah, no doubt. The leadership, the multitasking ability, the maturity. It's all there with Cole Christiansen, as Dane Vandernat can tell you, who was also out there in Pasadena with us. And I know Dane's got a question for you as well.
Yeah, Cole, first of all, man, it was an honor getting you out there, man. We were fired up watching your tape, and obviously to have the ability to have you come out and represent, the U.S. Army, U.S. Military Academy was huge for us, man. So
yes, sir.
First of all, thank you, man. Looking forward to, obviously watching you on Sundays here before you go off into the Army. But tell everyone real quick what you're going to be doing once you go back into Armed Forces after football's done.
Yep. So as soon as football's over, I'll pin my bars on. I'll be a 2nd lieutenant. I'm going to be a field artillery officer. I'm going to Hawaii, Schofield Barracks. So, I'll serve 5 years at least once football's over, maybe longer, and we'll see what happens. But very excited to be a lieutenant once football's over.
Yeah, it's going to be rough being out in Hawaii, man, stationed out there, But, you talked about, obviously, the pedigree and the rigors that you went through at the military academy. When you go to an NFL team, for instance, and you're not going to be the leader day one, you're going to be coming in, down the totem pole a little bit, going to have to earn your stripes there. Tell us about your mentality as you're gearing up to be a part of a 90-man roster, to get out there and compete in whatever type atmosphere that we're going to be able to this day, and then ultimately how you plan to work your way from preseason to either practice squad or 53-man roster, in kind of a backup capacity initially.
Right. Yeah. And I think it'll probably be very similar to me coming to West Point in the beginning, because obviously I had high aspirations, but you really never know what competition is going to be like at the next level. And I was entering a team that had the most premier leaders in the country already. So it was hard to assume a leadership role from the get-go anyway, being at West Point. But it really just came down to being a baller and laying everything I have on the field, every single practice, every meeting, showing that I'm totally committed to the organization and that I'd be willing to do anything for it. And then I think once people saw that, things just started working out and started rising up as a leader amongst my peers. And that's what I want to do in the NFL. I want to show up humble and contribute in any single way that I can, special teams, in the defense. I mean, everywhere that I can. So that's what I want to do. And eventually, things will play out in my favor, I hope, if I do that.
Army linebacker Cole Christiansen here on NFL Draft Bible live stream, counting you down to the NFL draft. We are 34 hours away or so. Joe Everett out there has a question for Cole. What do you got, Joe?
Cole, I think beyond just being in the Army, you got a different kind of discipline and routine from working on your family's farm. Talk about daily life and leading up to that and how that has helped you in your game and your application to football.
Yeah, it absolutely has helped. So I grew up on a horse farm, about 100 horses since I was 7 years old. So that definitely instilled at a young age a good work ethic in me and helping my dad out working with the horses. So working hard and getting up early and having a regimented day is something that I've had as long as I can remember. So it definitely has helped. And I applied it in high school and I applied it at West Point. And it's something that I'm glad I had an experience like that working on a farm for a very long time.
All right, last one for you, Cole, coming in. John Murphy with the last question.
Hey, Cole, first off, appreciate your service and please pass it along to all the guys that you see there at your school. We don't get to do stuff like this if you're not willing to do the things that you've done and that you're willing to do. So even if it is out in Hawaii, it's still, like I said, it's still a pleasure to talk to you, not only as a football prospect, but as a human being for what kind of person you are.
Appreciate that.
When you heard in the last couple of years, right, Brett Toth is a teammate, he goes through this process, but when he was going through it, there was kind of a lot more going on behind the scenes, not knowing, how this would play into effect, how you would have to deal with it. How much smoother is it for you knowing that if the opportunity is presented, that you will be able to go through with it immediately? Kind of what did you learn from him in that process and how much of a difference did it make for you knowing, that starting your senior year, that this was a real possibility now?
It has helped so much. And the doors have opened up tremendously compared to what Brett had to go through. I mean, I remember him jumping through hoops for years, literally years, trying to figure out how to navigate service and then playing, because we all want to serve and we're all super excited to serve. But it's definitely better for us if we can play immediately for our bodies. We're in shape for football right now. And it just makes sense. And thank you, President Trump and the DOD for letting this happen for us. But Brett's been a huge help. Ali Villanueva, we've chatted with him, guys that have served and then come back and managed to have successful careers in the NFL. They've helped a ton. But yeah, it really has made things a lot smoother. It's still tricky because it's new legislation and trying to work out the kinks and how exactly it's going to work, but definitely a lot smoother than the ride that the guys that went before us had. And if to clear any doubts in scouts or teams' eyes, like we absolutely can go immediately and our deferment process is all worked out. So just got to get drafted and get on the team and it'll all be good.
The hard parts are over with. The easy part is now just getting drafted.
That's right.
Yeah. And we are thankful for that new rule in place that you guys are immediately eligible, Cole. So, hey, man, it's been a pleasure. I know you've been getting Jersey strong there at Social Football Academy and getting that work in. And
yes, sir.
If there's anybody that's going to be more prepared for the draft, I think you're the guy. So we appreciate you taking the time. Any parting shots, final thank yous, or shout outs that you want to give out there before we let you go?
Yeah, thank you to you guys for having me on. And just like you said, thank you to Test Football and Kevin and the whole crew up there. I mean, they really changed my life, honestly, the last few months, my nutrition, my workout. So huge credit to them. And like I said, thank you to the Army and the DOD for letting this all happen. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, again, hey, thank you for your service and allowing us to be able to sit here and host this show in peace because of what you guys do. So thank you so much for that.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Good luck this week,
talking to you.
Cole Christiansen, we salute you. Another one of our standouts from the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. And the hits just keep on coming. We're going to pop in Malcolm Roach here, and Dakota's going to make sure he's got his audio right. In the meantime, Dane, back to our residential NFL PA Bowl guru there. I mean, Malcolm is a guy, you talk about versatility. He can play inside, outside. I know they were throwing him in that middle linebacker at times there in practice, just, moving him all around. The son of a coach, Malcolm Roach, everything an NFL team is looking for here.
Yeah, no doubt. And obviously, excited to get Malcolm, one, out to Pasadena for the NFL PA Bowl, but, two, on here today. When I went into Texas this year, I mean, it was easy. I mean, there were several studs on that defense. Brandon Jones we talked about yesterday, but Malcolm Roach was a guy that I kind of circled on my list and was kind of, hey, you know what, we got to find a way to get this man. And, he reminded me from my time at the Raiders. We had Lamar Houston, who played defensive line down for the Longhorns. And, I think Lamar was a little bit heavier than Malcolm is. But, I saw a similar personality on the football field as far as, again, the toughness, the relentlessness, the versatility. I love that Malcolm can play inside on defensive line. He can play outside. He's been in odd fronts. He can play in even fronts. Again, as we continue to talk about, when it comes to NFL value, the more you can do is going to only increase your value to all 32 teams. So, for us, there was a no-brainer getting Malcolm, man. Excited to get Malcolm on here.
Great comparison there with Lamar Houston throwback. Malcolm, welcome into the show, man. I know we're living in an upside-down world right now. Can we get you straight there? You're kind of sideways on us. But how's everything going for you? I love the hat there, my man. Let's kick it off right there because you came in and put in work at the NFL PA Bowl, turned some heads, got the scouts' attention. How was that whole process that week for you, and what kind of feedback did you get from the teams while you were out there?
It was a great process. Teams, they love me because I was able to play so many positions, and the PA Bowl let me showcase my talents in the 4-down front instead of playing in the odd front like we played at school all the time. So. They wanted to see if I could play in the 4-down front, different type of angles and things like that. I feel like I played pretty well, showed a good motor out there. Had fun the whole week while I was out there.
Yeah, you absolutely did. And you're on the hot seat here, the NFL Draft Bible live stream. Hot seat, go around the horn here, rapid fire style. Ryan Roberts, you're first up.
Malcolm, I wanted to dig into a little bit of the Longhorn career, man, because obviously everyone knows University of Texas, the great tradition you guys have, the great players you've been able to put out. Just some thoughts about what you were able to accomplish there. I know Coach Herman's got it going in a nice direction. How happy are you with how you guys, your senior class, was able to leave the program?
We feel like we left the program in, good hands with, the senior class coming up this year. Unfortunately, the season didn't go as we planned. My junior year, we came off a good year. Won the Sugar Bowl. We had big expectations, and we still had a pretty good year this year. We ended up winning the Alamo Bowl, but it didn't go as planned. We wanted to do more than that, but the memories I made with those guys. 4 years being there. I enjoyed all my time at the University of Texas, and I couldn't ask for a better school to go to.
All right, let's go over to Von Hutchins, who you might remember from Pasadena. I know, Von, you got a question for Malcolm.
Yeah, Malcolm, what's happening, man? Good to see you again. I spoke with you down at MJP, man. We talked about, the narrative that the college scouts are going to have on you coming from Texas and how you're able to change that narrative once you get to Indy. You did exactly what you would say as far as how you would run and at what weight. How were you able to change that narrative, and what are you hearing from NFL teams as far as what they project you to do and play and how they feel about you?
Changing the narrative that teams had on me, just put in work, came to the PA Bowl, put in work, showcased the good motor, chased the ball, ran the ball down, just showcased my athletic ability, That's one thing that teams love about me, how versatile I am, how athletic I am to be such a big guy. And, just going to the combine, that just was icing on the cake, going out there and being able to run. I've been able to run fast all my life, and being able to showcase that and the drills and things like that, it was great for me. And that's pretty much it, changing the narrative, just, put my head down and got to work.
All right, next up, we got Joe Everett chiming in with a question for Malcolm Roach.
Yeah, Malcolm, with the scheme change and the new coaching staff coming in, it seems like you had to take on more of a supporting role, help your teammates make plays off edge and make them look good. I think that kind of speaks to your maturity, but how difficult was that to let, others kind of have more of the limelight?
It was pretty hard at first, coming up the defense we ran with Coach Strong my freshman, I was the guy, getting all the sacks, making all the plays and things like that, to when I'm playing the 4 out to where I'm the guy taking the blocks and things like that. So I just had to look for the second best thing that I could do. I knew because, my dad, he's a football coach. So, he just sat down and told me, he said, you're not going to have the opportunity, to get sacks and things like that no more in this defense. It's going to be the linebackers and, the nickel getting most of the tackles and things like that. So, I sat down and I said, okay, what's the next best thing I could do? And, that was, just causing disruption, getting in the backfield. And I understand that, NFL scouts watch film and, they see the defense we ran and things like that, but they also know how to scout talent, and they know talent when they see it. And, if you can play football, you can play football no matter what defense you're in. And I believe I'm a good football player. I just go out there and play and try to find the ball. So just trying to cause disruption and, still trying to make my presence on the game, no matter what type of scheme we win.
Blowing up backfields is what he does. Malcolm Roach, Texas lineman here. John Murphy, I know you got a question.
Well, first off, this is one of the best players in the draft. And it doesn't matter where you go, Malcolm, it'll play out, in the coming years, and it's not just your versatility. Being from Louisiana, the Roach family is a football family in Baton Rouge. It should be a probably interesting Thanksgiving time each year. Your dad played at Southern, your brother played at Grambling. So what brought Malcolm Roach, when you have, right there in Baton Rouge, a football factory, what did Texas do to be able to swing you over, and get you out of the state of Louisiana? And then more importantly, the reason I know you will be successful on the football field is not just what you've done as a football player, but I know you've also done a lot of community service stuff as a really young person. Kind of share with us what brought that to you, what made that be something so natural for you to do something, because that Kick for Kids thing, is a huge opportunity for kids that might not have, what the rest of us have had growing up.
Well, the reason I chose to go to Texas was, LSU really didn't recruit me that highly, coming out of high school and things like that. But, I had a lot of scholarship offers, from a whole bunch of D1 schools and things like that. But, just being from where I'm from, when I first stepped foot in Austin, it was something like I never seen before. And, just the way the city was, the way the people were just, so free out there and things like that, it's so laid back, and it's so much stuff to do in Austin. I feel like, that's a place I could really go to and grow up, I could have, stayed at home, went to school like UL, I also could have went to school like Mississippi State and things like that. But, when I was in Austin, it just gave me a different type of feeling inside. And, I just fell in love with the school. And, Coach Strong was the coach there at the time. And, Coach Haley coached at LSU for a while I was in high school. And he recruited me to Texas. So we already had a relationship with Coach Haley. So, when I went up there, it just felt like a second home to me, and I loved it. But, going to the community service side, my mom, she's the youth director at my church. And, we have something called Vacation Bible School. It's a whole week in the summer where, the kids, just come to school, just trying to keep them busy, keep them off the streets and things like that. So, they could be doing anything during the day. So my mom called me one time and said, the kids have nothing but slippers and things on like that. I don't ever see them wearing any shoes, or, some of them shoes have holes in them and things like that. And, I looked in my closet, and I was fortunate enough, I got shoes piled up to the ceiling in my closet, shoes I don't even wear anymore. And, I said, I'm going to do something to raise some shoes for them. I can give away some of my shoes also. And, reached out to my teammates, reached out to my coaches, put it on Instagram and social media, and, it blew up. We were able to get over 500 pair of shoes, and I think we ended up giving away 420 pair of shoes. It got so big to where, You know, it wasn't even kids at my church. It was just kids in the community, you know, come and get shoes and things like that. And we look to make it bigger and bigger every year, you know. Next year we want to try to get shirts for the kids. And, you know, I'm going to partner with another local guy here. He plays for the coach, Chad Williams. He's going to try to help out. You know, he just put on his first football camp, and I want to try to put on mine. So we're going to try to bring it together, you know, just try to get more athletes in the Baton Rouge area to come together and, you know, just make it bigger and, you know, try to help our community out even more.
That's outstanding, Malcolm. And I think it speaks to your maturity, man, just to be doing those kind of things at your age is such a great gesture. So let's go over to Dane Vandernat. You heard him talking about you when you hopped on here. We circle back to Dane for a question.
Yeah, man. Hey, you know, Malcolm, obviously growing up in Baton Rouge, LSU in your backyard, man, one of my favorite atmospheres this year was going down week 2 for your guys' Texas LSU game, man, in prime time. And obviously you played a good game. Game didn't finish the way that you wanted to, but what did that game mean to you? What do you think it meant to the Longhorns? And I mean, hosting such a primetime game down there.
It was very big, you know. You know, every year since I've been in Texas, we played at least one primetime game a year. But I probably have to say that one probably was the most hyped primetime game. You know, coming off a great win against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. So that whole off season, you know, it was just, you know, y'all be ready for LSU, y'all be ready for LSU. And, you know, I feel like we put up a good performance. You know, obviously we didn't get the job done, but, you know, that was a great football team. Probably one of the best football teams to ever be assembled in college football. You know, I see them on the list where, you know, like the 2000 Miami team and things like that. I think that's a team, but, you know, that was a great football team that we played, and, you know, we hung in there with them. And, you know, it's probably one of the toughest games they played all year. So, unfortunately, we didn't get the job done, but just playing that atmosphere is something I'll never forget. And that's a memory I'll ever have, you know, playing against people I done grew up down the street from, and, you know, some of my childhood friends, being able to play against them. So that's memories we always have with each other.
Well, you're about to have another great memory, Malcolm, and we're going to find out where your next destination is. It's going to be a crowning moment for your career, man. We're all looking forward to it. We're all in your corner rooting for you. We appreciate you hopping on, taking some time here out of your busy schedule. So I'm sure we'll be in contact. But, hey, best of luck this upcoming weekend. Thanks for hopping on with us and spending a few minutes to chat it up.
All right. Thank y'all for having me.
All right.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Malcolm Roach, Texas defensive lineman, came in and put in that work at the NFL PA Bowl, and we were excited to have him out there. And to John's point, he could potentially be the highest rated prospect from our events. This guy is also a highly rated prospect, Azur Kamara, here joining us on the NFL Draft Bible live stream. Azur will get right into it, man. You were over at the Senior Bowl down in Mobile. Let's start off there. How was that experience for you? What was the feedback that you got from NFL teams?
It was a great experience because after my senior season, I wasn't accepting any Senior Bowl invites or anything like that. But I hired an agent, and then I came down to Florida. You know, I went to work. You know, worked like I prepared as if I was going to get an invite, and then sure enough, every day just got up, you know, go to the weight, train, you know, watch some film, go over pass rush move, and that's how I make drops over. I had a Coach O'Neal, and then after that, when I got to the Senior Bowl, I knew I had no time to get my feet wet, so my goal was to show the coaches and scouts my versatility, you know, and I feel like I was able to do that. And when I talked to the coach, when I talked to teams, they felt that they do see me as a linebacker / defensive end, and they see me that I can play a lot of roles for special team as well.
No doubt. And you were a guy that kind of ascended as the season wore on. Your film got better and better. And I knew Dane Vandernat's a guy right there in his own backyard. He had a chance to go into camp. We'll go over to Dane to fire off a question for Azur.
Yeah, Azur, how are you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, man. No, you know what? You were maybe one of the most intriguing prospects I think that's coming out this year.
Thank you.
Obviously, you're blessed with physical and athletic traits, and you've come a long way. It's been really fun watching your progression these last couple of years as you've become better and more comfortable as a football player. But talk to us a little bit about your athletic background, what positions you've played, and then obviously what position you think you're going to be best at moving forward with the NFL club.
Well, actually, in my background, I grew up playing soccer, as a kid, and then when I got introduced to football in my freshman year in high school when I got here, and I started playing. When I went to go register at Central High School, and then the head coach from there saw me, and he asked me, he's like, "You play soccer?" I know he didn't ask me if I played. Like, he said, "You play basketball?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm a soccer player." He's like, "Soccer player?" He's like, "You're too tall and to be playing soccer." And then he saw my hand, and then we shook hands. He's like, "Wow, you got really big hands. Why don't you try, come out this year and try for football?" And I told him, I was like, "Nah, I don't know much about football." And but he said, "Well, if you don't try, you're not gonna know anything about it." I was like, "Yeah, that's right." And then I came out my freshman year, and I try out. Basically from there, the rest is history. And I grew up playing. My first year there, I started playing as a defensive end from high school all the way up to as junior in Kansas, and then I made a transition from defensive end to outside linebacker my senior year when Coach Elliott came in, and I went over some of my film the previous year, and he saw my he saw the ability. He told me, he's like, I feel like you got a really good ability to rush, and I want to give you the chance to also show me your athleticism. Now that's why he moved to outside linebacker, and I felt that I did. As the season went on, I like you said, I got better, and I got used to the coverages, and I got more comfortable at that position. I do feel I can play both positions, defensive end and slash outside linebacker. Whatever team they need me, whatever position they need me at, I'll be happy to fill that role.
Azur Kamara, Kansas edge rusher here on the NFL Draft Bible live stream. So we go over to Ryan Roberts for the next question.
Azur, so we kind of mentioned a little bit, body, beautiful guy. I'm looking at these combine numbers. I'm looking at the long arms. There's a lot to go on here, man. 4.59 in the 40-yard dash. Some impressive numbers. Just talk to me a little bit about the experience down in Indianapolis and how happy you were with the workout that you were able to put in.
My experience at Indianapolis was a fun experience. I had my goal was to go out there, and I felt I was happy with my numbers. I was going through a little bit of a hamstring problem, but I fought through it, and I put up like you said, 4.59, and I thought that was that's pretty fast, right? Especially for having a hamstring problem. And I talked to a lot of coaches, and I asked them. The one question I asked them a lot was, how do they see me fit in the defenses? And they always told me that this team has a stand up. Some teams told me to see me as a stand up where I can play outside, or on third down they can move me back to inside. Things like that. Or they can pull me. I can pull my hand down and get after the quarterback. So so I feel like I can play any role. That's one of my strengths. I can play anywhere on the defense. Actually.
All right, next question coming in from Joe Everett. What do you got for Azur?
Azur, you got speed clearly, the great feet from the soccer background, and I see you got power. But what would you say is your go-to move? And when that move's not working, what's the change up?
My go-to move is actually speed to power, because I learned that from my coach Clan since my first day stepping on the football field. That's the first move he taught me, and I've liked that since. And if that don't work, my counter, I got a lot of counter to that. It's something called flash. So it's like I show them, I act like I'm about to stab them, and when I show my hands, which causes the offensive line to shoot their hands, and I'll put my hand out and then club rip and then get the sack. And I also got counter spin or stop rail.
Coming to a city near you on Sundays. Kansas edge rusher here on the NFL Draft Bible live stream show. We're going around the horn on the hot seat. John Murphy, what do you got for Azur?
Hey, Azur, what was the difference this year with the feeling where, it seemed like in a lot of these games now this season, the program started to really feel like there was a change, right? It sort of seemed
right,
like, beforehand, it wasn't such a given. The matchups were different, right? You guys, you started to, progress the last 2 years. but it seemed like a lot of the younger guys just started to come into their own. Where do you see the program now versus when you got there, and what's your expectation for it moving forward?
I see when I first got there, my first year out there, and I saw a lot of it was a different culture under a different coaching staff, and obviously my senior year when Coach Les Miles came in, you know Les Miles' background, he's a really good coach, so he showed that if you were to win, it wasn't going to be easy. We had to put the work in, and also a lot of seniors looked at that, and they just used to work on the things that they needed to get better and help the team wins, and including myself. I'll be out there work on whatever it was that I needed to, what it was getting extra reps in on my pass rush move or outside linebacker drops and things like that. But I feel like it was under the program is going to go a long way under Coach Miles because he knows what he's doing, and also he doesn't let he's a hard worker, and the players know that, and they take big pride in that.
Yeah, I think I had a chance to see you guys up in Pittsburgh. You came in 35-point underdogs, and you exited Pittsburgh with the W there. So that was exciting to watch. And around the horn here with Azur Kamara, that's when he gained my attention. But I know Von Hutchins has a question for you.
Yeah, no doubt, Azur. With you, man, only picking up football 8 years ago or so. Has there been any players that you've watched recently or any NFL players that you enjoy watching that you want to model your game around, that you've taken some of your pass rush moves or your drops and ability to play in space? Is there anybody that you just look up to in that regard?
Yeah, actually, I look up to Von Miller and Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack because I like the speed of power. I got that from him. When he does it, it makes it look effortless, So I try to mimic, the things that he do and try to, put that into my game and work off of that. And Von Miller, I know, he drops off, he dropped back a lot and also rush the pass, quarterback real well, So Von Miller, he's a speed guy. So compared to Khalil Mack's power, so I try to take some of the power rush moves from Khalil Mack and then the speed rush moves from Von Miller and try to, put those two together.
Well, Azur, hey, man, we appreciate you taking some time. I know you're a busy man leading up to the draft here, a fast zoomer up the draft boards, meeting with teams and everything. So we're looking forward to it. We're all supporting you. Any shout-outs, thank yous, or parting shots for the people before we let you go?
Man, I just want to, I know I'm in a position where I am today that I never thought I could be. And I just want to thank everybody that helped me throughout the journey, including my previous coaches, friends, and also my agent. She did do a lot for me throughout this process, including putting me to a Senior Bowl and the combine as well. So I just want to give a big shout out to all those people that helped me throughout this journey. And this weekend's going to conclude that.
Well, we appreciate Christina Phillips for coordinating this interview. I know you got a good agent in your corner, and she's setting you up for success. So we'll be in touch. But best of luck this weekend, and hey, keep us posted, brother.
All right, man. Thank you. We'll do.
All right, there you have it, Azur Kamara. There he is. He goes, he comes, and blink of an eye. We've got a couple more guests coming up here. I think we're supposed to have Cedric Byrd from Hawaii. If we don't, we'll reschedule him. We've got Stanley Thomas Oliver from FIU coming up. So we might have about 5 minutes to play around with until Stanley hops on board. The interesting topic that came up is it seems like Dane and Vaughn specifically, throughout this whole week, we've had all kinds of guests from the NFLPA and we say, hey, this guy could be the highest guy. This guy could be the highest guy. When it's all said and done, gut feeling, and I'm not looking for you guys to play favoritism, Dane or Vaughn, but what does your gut tell you? Who is the guy, or give me one or two guys that you think could hear their name called first from the NFLPA Bowl? And we'll start with you, Dane.
Yeah, well, excuse me. I mean, I think that both the guys we kind of talked about today, obviously with Malcolm a second ago, and then talking about Danny Pinter earlier, it wouldn't surprise me if either of those guys was the first guy. If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Malcolm, but I mean, I think those two guys are neck and neck as, being two of the cream of the crop that we were able to get down a very talented NFLPA Bowl roster this year.
Very talented. In fact, 30 combine invites, nearly triple the amount of combine invites the previous year. Vaughn, it's a tough call, man. I mean, there's so many great candidates, a handful of guys that we spoke throughout the week, but what's your gut telling you?
I mean, I'll go back to a guy that we talked about and talked to earlier in the week with L'Jarius Sneed. Just a guy that, his stock continues to rise. Played corner last year or 2018 in safety this past year. So he showed the versatility, showing the playmaking ability. He put stuff on tape. He's had a big name corner, Robinson, that he's worked beside him. So scouts consistently come in and out of the school. Then he goes to the combine and he blows the combine up. He runs 4.3, he jumps 41. So I think athletically and projection wise, teams will look at him as a guy that I can fit him in and I know exactly what he can do. I can use him on teams right now. He's a gunner. I can use him on kickoff right now and he can contribute. I can put him into the defense and help him work. And hopefully he becomes a third, fourth corner in that regard, or your third safety. So I think he's a guy that ends up being in consideration to be that top guy off the board from the NFLPA Bowl.
Well, we're going to actually pop on our next guest here. And Vaughn, I'm going to stick with you because it's in your neck of the woods. Stanley Thomas Oliver from FIU. He was brought to my attention when, they pulled off that upset from over Miami. And we were supposed to have Isaiah Brown on yesterday. They've got the linebacker, Sage Lewis. Stanley Thomas Oliver was a guy where his frame, his length, his best football seems to be ahead of him. I think once he gets with the NFL strength and conditioning program, this is a guy that, maybe not a starter, but a very, very solid player at the next level. What can you tell us about Stanley Oliver Thomas?
When I went down to the school and you just see his frame, you see the long, lean, athletic taper. He's ripped up. He's shredded. The background of being a wide receiver early in his career at FIU. You see the ball skills. There's some work from a technique standpoint that needs to be corrected and ironed out, but you have a really good athlete who's able to play the ball and he's willing to play press man. So this is a guy who's, I'm sure, is garnering a lot of attention. He went to the East-West Shrine. I'm sure he performed well. But he was the guy that definitely caught my eye during the fall.
No doubt about it. So just coordinating here, we're multitasking. That's what we do here at the NFL Draft Bible. We have Stanley Thomas Oliver, I think, on the hotline, Dakota, do we not?
He's coming on now.
All right. So Dakota on the 1-2, switching it up, remix for us. And again, I was watching that film and I just said, man, who is that guy just locking corners down? He's Stanley Thomas Oliver. He joins us now on the NFL Draft Bible live stream. And I see you rocking the East-West Shrine game sweatshirt hoodie there, Stanley. So let's start off there. What was that East-West Shrine Bowl experience like for you? How did you feel like you fared? And what kind of feedback did you get from NFL teams?
The East-West Shrine game was a great experience. I feel like it was a good stepping stone for me, especially coming from a small school like FIU. Being at the East-West Shrine game, you're going against bigger talent. A lot of things that the college guys want to see is you playing against the better pedigree of teams, better pedigree of schools. So I feel like I fared pretty well, did pretty good, and that ultimately got me the combine invite.
No doubt. You're on the hot seat here. We're going around the horn. Stanley Thomas Oliver, FIU. Let's kick it off with Joe Everett. What do you got for Stanley?
Stanley, I was there all week in St. Pete for East-West, and coming away from that week, you became my biggest sleeper at the cornerback position. I think you're this year's Richard Sherman. So just a big season, I think, ahead for you. But what I want to know from you is all freshman team as a wide receiver, if memory serves, like, when does that position change happen? And at what point does it become a reality? Because all of a sudden you're honorable mention all conference, then your second team all conference. It's starting to become not just a part of the imagination, it's a reality. You're going to be one heck of a cornerback. So what's your mentality when the position change happens?
My mentality when the position change happened was, first of all, you only got 2 more years to prove to an NFL team that you're worth the value to be picked, to be selected, to be even in the race for being drafted. So my mentality going in was buying into it as fast as possible, learning as fast as possible, and just understanding the situation I was in.
Oliver, FIU, cornerback here on the NFL Draft Bible live stream show going around the horn. Ryan Roberts up next with a question.
Yeah, Stanley, I was really excited to get you on here, man. Appreciate you coming on for a little bit. Kind of like Joe said, you're a guy that I've been watching and I'm really excited about as, one of those guys that maybe people should be talking about a lot more. You've been able to attack this process. We talked about East-West, Indianapolis, 4.48 at, a 6 foot plus corner. There's a lot of selling points here, but I want to talk a little bit about FIU because we're talking about James Morgan coming out this year. We talked about Isaiah. We unfortunately weren't able to have him on the show yesterday. Butch Davis has got things working down there in Florida International, man. What's it like down there right now, and how excited are you for what they're going to continue to improve on? And maybe give me a little insight into that win over Miami this past year too.
Coach Davis coming in was a great pickup for us. His knowledge coming from the league, coming from the national championship teams he played on. Just him being as a coach, just kind of much run the team up. Being there at FIU kind of was great, especially leaving a foundation. The senior class breaking the record for the wins, and that Miami game was amazing, man. From the first kickoff, we kind of knew that it was going to be a good game. We practiced hard that whole week, and to have it turn out the way it did was amazing.
I got to be honest, I wasn't there live, but I watched it on TV, and it was the most exciting game that I watched all season long, bottom line. It was so exciting. It was so close, and we always love the story of the underdog, and we're talking to Stanley Thomas Oliver here at FIU. We're going around the horn. John Murphy up next with a question.
So obviously you started off your senior year the right way, unfortunately for Tulane fans. Who was the best guy? Because that was a good matchup, right? Two guys that at that time frame, were kind of not a lot of talk was going on, but it was interesting, to see the guys that they have the one thing Tulane did have was receivers with outside speed. Who was the guy that maybe, throughout the course of this, whether it was in this regular season, Tropic Bowl or East-West, was there a guy that you practiced against that you're saying like, hey, I won't be surprised, if I see that guy on Sundays, at a later date?
Definitely from the bowl game, Arkansas State, Omar Bayless. He was one of a big target guys. He was a guy that could make a lot of 50-50 ball contested catches. You could be in his grill, he could still be long enough to make an acrobatic catch. So he definitely come out.
Yeah, we saw that too at Pasadena, making some acrobatic catches throughout the week there. And Dane Vandernat could attest to that. I think Dane has a question for you as well.
Yeah, Stan, I want to hear about your background playing wide receiver, obviously a position that you're now lining up against. How did your experience playing that position, what did you take away from it? How do you use it now to be a better cornerback and be able to defend the different routes you're going to be seeing?
I take everything from that. Being able to play the position beforehand kind of gives you a better feel playing cornerback. Kind of putting yourself in the mindset of what would you do if you were in this, condensed split, if you was kind of going against me fighting pressure to pressure. I know you kind of trying to fight me inside just so you can break a different type of way. It kind of helps you play faster, helps you pre-snap, be able to jump things and time things better.
All right, last one for you, Stanley. We finished where we started. Von Hutchins is someone who was down in your school and checked you out up close and personal. So, Von, we go over to you for the last question.
And I'll just kind of carry on from what Dane was mentioning. Obviously, man, being an athlete and transitioning over to the defensive side, that helps with the learning curve. But playing corner in the league specifically, it's about being technique sound and about working on those technique issues. What are some of the things that you've worked on from your junior year to your senior year, and from your senior year now into the draft, that you're continuing to kind of focus on as far as the finer points of the game?
Continue to just work on my mentals in the game. I'm still learning, so still developing, watching film, watching the older guys, the Marshall and Lattimores, the guys that's successful, the Richard Shermans, Jalen Ramsey, just trying to see the things they do to keep them successful, to keep them, relevant in the game today.
Nice. Well, hey, Stanley, we appreciate you taking some time. We didn't get your teammate Ike Brown on yesterday. We are going to have him on at some point during the week. So give us a little Ike Brown story, anything, any dirt you have on him, or break down his game. Tell us a little something about Ike.
And Ike, that's my best friend. That was my roommate. He was another guy who helped me with the transition. Another guy who brought me in with open arms and was like, pretty much, we're going to do this, So I have nothing but respect, nothing but love. He's pretty much a similar corner as me. He was on the other side, same height, same weight, 0.2 of a second faster, a little bit. Always been a little bit faster, but that's my guy, man.
No doubt. Well, hey, we appreciate taking some time and hopping on here with us, and we're looking forward to seeing where you land. I think we all have big goals and expectations for you, as I know you do yourself personally. So thanks again for hopping on here, and we'll definitely keep in touch, my man.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me on.
All right, you got it. That's Stanley Thomas Oliver, FIU. In the place to be. It's 2 hours of power in the books, and you know what? I'm telling you guys, it's really been a lot of fun, a lot of pleasure, and got to roll up my pants here and get my dance party on those shoes. I gotta say, it was close. It was close, man. I almost had Vaughn out. Vaughn and Joe, they were both like neck and neck being out of the chair. I think I got Vaughn out of the chair, but I don't know if I got him fully stood up. And, if you've been tuning in, we got the dance party going on. It's coronavirus pandemic time to put smiles on people's faces, but it's been 3 consecutive days of draft preview coverage. We are now 12 o'clock Eastern, which means we are 28 hours away, something like that, till the NFL draft. I don't know. I'm not good at math, but I can tell you this. We'll be back at it again for live stream coverage. 10 p.m. is now the new number. It was 10 a.m. Now it's 10 p.m. We're going to hop on for the last 2 hours of the draft the next 2 days, Thursday and Friday. Hop in, give you a little recap analysis, react to some of the live picks as they happen, and then hopefully we'll be on a little bit after the draft to just kind of absorb everything that happened. I know all these guys are going to have some hot takes to happen. Now, Joe was the first guy out of the chair yesterday, so his request was the Beastie Boys coming in. My goal, if you're just tuning in for the first time here throughout the week, is trying to get the hosts out of their chairs. My goal is by our Sunday recap show, I want to have every host out of the chair, but Joe picked Beastie Boys, so
you can't stop, won't stop situation.
Oh, more of Joe Everett's lines.
Tear it, man.
So I don't know if you're dancing or if you're stomping ants down there.
I'm terrible.
Yeah, Vaughn. Hey, man, you know exactly why I'm not getting up here doing this either, man. I know what kind of scout report feedback I'm going to